Well, as a parent, I would say I'm learning that I think my kids are grown up unique and the way they are, and I didn't create that. And I'd be hard-pressed to point to individual experiences that made them the way they are. And so I can see that as a parent. I can't see it with respect to myself, what made me me. I don't think I was in executive mode observing myself for much of my life. But so I would have to say that's the first piece. There were a few key experiences in my life that I think really shaped who I am. And I would point, the first one I would point to is my dad got an Apple II when I was a kid, just because he had a hunch that it was important, and he didn't quite know what to do with it. And he put it in the basement, and I sat playing with that thing, and I wasn't one of the most popular kids in school, so I had some time. I wasn't just hanging with friends or something else, which probably would have been a more healthy upbringing. And so I taught myself to use the thing, taught myself assembly language, and really kind of got this notion that I think more than anything else, that you can think in a very structured way and get an outcome that you expect. And I talk sometimes with my staff about my business today, and I talk about how the way that we operate is the code that we're running on, like software code. And that if something's not happening the way we want to, we should look for the problem in the code. In other words, don't point to a person and say that person's bad or that person's not doing their job. Try to figure out what's wrong with our code, how we need to rewrite it to make everybody happy and the clients happy and everything work right. So I think there's a fundamental insight that I got from computers, which I've largely applied outside computers, to how to run essentially an operational business that makes people happy. When I look at others doing things exceptionally well, it informs me maybe more than it does some. So I kind of randomly took a family vacation to a Club Med with my wife, and I was struck how they were hiring a lot of young people without a lot of life experiences, and we're creating a really compelling, very social experience of being on vacation, where you were learning to do archery or learning tennis or just having dinner with people that work there. Part of their work is actually having dinner with the clients. And I stood back and I said, wow, they've written some really interesting code here that's running on a beach resort, right? And so I think that, and then I tried to extract from that what I could extract and insert into our code base. And so I guess that would be my first answer, is sort of the Apple II and what that taught me about life. And thanks to Steve Jobs for that, really. And I suppose Steve Wozniak as well. A second kind of really quintessential experience that shaped my life was I sort of fell into a job fixing computers while I was still in middle school at a local computer store, and then the job evolved into essentially a startup, a business where I was helping grown-ups buy computers and getting paid to teach them how to use them and set them up for them. And I was making good money, real money as an entrepreneur, still in 7th and 8th grade. And I started to see how I could conceive of doing something. It wasn't a job someone hired me to do, like go and work in a regular business, but rather conceive that there was a need and go out and do it and get paid for it. And I was struck on how, first of all, how much more money you make that way than when you take a job. And second of all, again, how you can kind of shape the world in a way that interests you. And I went on to having a business that wrote software for other businesses. Over the years, I wrote the core operating software for 4 or 5 businesses throughout high school, including a golf club and a country club, kind of golf club place, a pawn shop. That was probably my biggest customer and really interesting. There were shotguns on the wall behind the bulletproof glass where I worked, and guys that looked really scared that I was working with, but were really, really nice when you were on the right side of the glass. And, so I think that those were the lessons that led me to be interested in building businesses, and I've carried that with me my whole life. For a bunch of reasons, I've ended up spending a bunch of my life in Japan. Starting in high school, did a sort of a summer thing, and then I took a year during college, and then I worked for almost 5 years in Tokyo. And I think what I learned from that was to see myself, I saw myself for the first time as a minority and as an outsider. You know, I'm white and male in America, and that's a pretty easy place to be. But suddenly when you're in a place where you're the weirdo, and where people don't really know what to expect from you. I guess I was always weird, but I was really weird. And people didn't know what to expect from me, and there were really no preconceptions about what I was or should be. It allowed me, people talk about going to India to find themselves or something like that. I think that that's what happened. I went to Japan and I discovered that I really needed to write my own description of who I was, if that makes sense, and kind of dropped some of the preconceptions about myself from my childhood, and came back very much a changed person, very much maybe more, and this may sound bad, but more self-referential, more focused on my view of the world and how I wanted it to be, as opposed to what other people thought that I should think. We think that what we're doing is we're changing the way that community forms in the startup community, and that real estate is kind of incidental to that. That's the medium, and the way we get paid. Cambridge Innovation Center is today the world's largest collection of startups under one roof. We have about 450 startup companies here, and those companies have collectively raised close to $2 billion of venture capital. And the pool of companies has produced some remarkable ones, including the Android mobile phone operating system, which is now the world's leader, was co-founded here. When that company was a two-person company, one of the two did his work here, and a number of other really pretty significant companies. I would point to one, Great Point Energy, which is changing the way that coal is used to produce electricity. They've found a clean way of using coal, and recently raised a little over $1 billion, mostly from Chinese investors, to build a plant in China to pursue this technology. So these are not trivial kinds of things that they're doing, that these companies are doing. And what we're doing is trying to create the best place in the world for someone with a powerful idea and the capability to pursue it, and to attract the resources around them they need to be successful. The key resource, the number one thing that an entrepreneur needs above all else, and the hardest thing to get, at least in today's world, is the right kind of talent in your company that will propel you forward. At the moment, there's well more money available to entrepreneurs than there is need for that money. There are billions of dollars seeking the cool next new idea. Yes, you have to explain why yours is the cool next new idea, and that's not always easy, but it's not about the money, it's about the talent. And so one of the things we've been able to do in building a community of hundreds of entrepreneurs and thousands of people working with those entrepreneurs is to make it a little easier to find the right people to work with to build your business. Largely that happens through personal connections and referrals and networks of people and socializing and all those things that we know well. But it happens best in a physical place. And we are one such physical place. We seek to be the best such physical place in the world. Some of the bigger companies that are pursuing creating an innovation culture have actually chosen to create teams and put them here at Cambridge Innovation Center. So, for instance, the Boston Globe has reported that Amazon is pursuing some new things inside Cambridge Innovation Center. Disney Research has done the same thing at Cambridge Innovation Center, and a number of other big companies. So there is a portion of our business which is beyond the 450 startups, which are sort of corporate startups that like to coexist in this environment and soak up and benefit from that energy.